Welcome back, guys. Or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2025 Toyota RAV4, and that's the Tesla Model Y. These are actually both compact crossovers, and they're actually the two best-selling SUVs globally. They sell over 1 million units every single year, at least currently, and they sell roughly 400,000 units in the United States. So not only are these both competing compact crossovers, but they are the two best-selling vehicles currently. And you know what's funny? I own the RAV4 and my brother owns the Tesla Model Y. So today I'm super excited to show you guys a side-by-side comparison of the two best-selling vehicles right now to help you at home decide which one might work for you. Do you want the all-electric Tesla, or do you want the gas-powered, the hybrid-powered, or the plug-in hybrid-powered Toyota RAV4? We're going to do a walk around from the front to the back and everything else in between to help you guys at home decide what do you do with these two very well-selling, very competent, all-around family little vehicles. And if you get anything out of this video, please consider liking it, comment your thoughts and opinions below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, let's get right into it. So while both of these vehicles really do share a lot in common, such as bright LED headlights, structural stability, all the other adaptive safety features to make these both top Safety Pick Plus rated vehicles, they're going to protect you and your family well. But more than that, they also share all-wheel drive. They're also both built quite well by very reputable automakers, and they're both quite efficient for what they are. The Tesla can get up to about 100 miles per gallon equivalent on its electric rating, and then the RAV4s, the hybrids, the plug-in hybrids, they can do quite well for themselves. But there are a few differences. The RAV4 is just a little bit taller, but the Model Y is a little bit wider and longer. This is 6.3 feet wide. It's 15.5 feet long, which is actually pushing this closer to the mid-size crossover class rather than the compact. But overall, they are in the same class of vehicle. It does weigh 41 to 4,400 pounds, depending on which trim level you go with. If it has a bigger battery pack, which the range on that is about 60 kilowatt hours, up to about 81. And then if it's all-wheel drive with 2 electric motors, or if it just has one, this one specifically does have the Model Y performance package. So it does have 2 electric motors, and it's probably going to be on the top end of the spectrum. It has a payload capacity of over 1,100 pounds, and it sure is quite the looker, especially on these Nokian tires and these Martian wheels. But the RAV4, it's a little bit lighter. This one being a hybrid, it probably weighs around 3,700 pounds. It's about 15 feet long, so half a foot shorter. It's 5.5 feet tall, so it is a couple inches taller. And then it's roughly 6 feet wide, so it's about 3 inches more narrow, which I think the width difference probably comes from those nice wide fenders on this Model Y performance. But overall, it does a pretty good job. This costs anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000 depending on which power plant you have on your Toyota RAV4, whereas the Teslas, they start at $45,000 and they can get up to the mid-50s, at least for the United States market where we're currently at, and that's if you're not counting the tax credit. And then under the hood, we're going to start with the Toyota, and you'll notice that these look drastically different. This has the A25A, which is roughly a 200 horsepower engine on its own. It does have dual port injection, so it's going to be a very reliable engine, not blocking up the intake valves. It also has some hybridized components, being the basic hybrid. So there's no serpentine belt you have to worry about maintaining. It does have an electronic AC compressor, no starter, no alternator. It's actually not that complicated, and it is rated for a peak 219 horsepower, and Toyota does not rate the torque output. But based off of the butt dyno, I would say it's probably at least that same horsepower figure, but into the torque. Overall, I don't think that this would be a very difficult platform, a very difficult vehicle to maintain. And remember that the RAV4 is a top Safety Pick Plus. In crash tests, it does phenomenally well. It really protects you, your family, your passengers, anyone you have in the vehicle. But the Model Y, when it came out, this was by the IIHS the safest vehicle that they have ever tested, because this whole thing is crumple zone. You're not having an engine that can't really crumple realistically. This whole thing is going to slow you down in an impact and protect you and your family. So even with some junk in the trunk, or junk in the frunk, I should say, you can tell it has a few cubic feet of room. It has a very handy storage compartment. You could easily fit all of your groceries, some backpacks, some carry-ons in there. There's really quite a lot that you can do with the frunk of the Tesla. But there's no engine, because this has 2 electric motors, and they're tucked away hidden down below closer to the axles of the wheels. And it makes roughly 455 horsepower per Google, because Tesla is a little bit mysterious in how they don't like to rate their vehicles. But the back of both of these vehicles, they're actually quite spacious. They both have just over 30 cubic feet of room. Technically, the Toyota is the winner. It has 37 cubic feet when the second row is up. The Tesla is closer to 30. You can actually tell that the opening on this, it's a little bit taller, a little bit further back, because it doesn't slope down the same sporty way that the Tesla does. if you guys can see that. But still 37 cubic feet. When you do have the seats down though, they're not perfectly flat. You still could car camp back here, but it's not going to be as flat as some other vehicles. And then down here under the floor mat, you have a temporary spare tire. Unfortunately, it's not a full-size spare. And then some LED lighting, a 12 volt, you know, a little bit of storage behind the wheel well, but there's not too much to talk about back here. But then up here, you have a button to lower down the power liftgate. And if we come over to the Tesla, you'll notice that it has the same button, but because of the spoiler, because of the shape of this vehicle, the tailgate does open probably half a foot taller. So you guys be careful when you are in your garage, but you still have over 30 cubic feet of room back here, but it is more slanted as mentioned. So you're not gonna be able to fit as big of items further back towards the rear of the vehicle, and you might need to be a little bit more creative. The seats probably lay down a little bit flatter in this vehicle, and you can even drop them with a power button, which is pretty cool, but it doesn't power lift. Under here, there's a lot more storage. It drops down over a foot, just enough to hide a ginormous subwoofer, which is pretty cool. But we need to talk about efficiency and the tires on each of these vehicles. My brother in his Tesla gets anywhere from 200 miles going fast on the interstate with the headwind to about 350 miles when he's just driving around the city that he lives in. Meanwhile, the RAV4 with its 14.5 gallon tank, it can get over 500 miles pretty easily at about highway interstate speeds, nearly 600 miles if you are driving around town, because around town I can get anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per gallon, but at interstate speeds at 80 miles an hour, it does about 32 on average, I would say. And then it has just a factory, not very high quality all-season tire, and it's a 225/60/18. In a few days, there'll be some better upgraded all-terrain tires on this. And then my brother, he actually, day number 1, he put some oversized all-weather tires on from Nokia and some Martian wheels. These are 255/55/18, and they look really good. You can tell you have way more wheel gap, a little bit more suspension travel on the RAV4 than you do on the Tesla, because the Model Ys also have an inch lowered suspension. But honestly, this thing handles really good. I also have a few videos driving this in the snow and doing a few other update videos with it. So be sure to find those on my channel, especially if you want to know how well a Tesla does in the snow on pretty decent tires. But I think it's time we hop into each of these vehicles and we see how the interior is. And for roughly, $15,000 more in the Tesla than what my RAV4 costs if you were to buy them both brand new today, let's see, is it going to be much nicer? First of all, you push the fat, you pull the skinny, you open up the door panel. My brother's Model Y is actually 4 years old, although this is the same generation and basically, other than software and suspension, the same vehicle that you could currently buy. But the door panel, what in a testament to Tesla quality. I know that's not what they used to be known for, but this vehicle, while treated well for 60,000 miles, has held up really well. It's just a nice entryway. It looks really simple, really clean. Even these seats, the stitching, these are all original. There's not really a lot of wear and tear on this. And then you have the giant glass panoramic sunroof up top. But because it's about 20 degrees with the wind chill outside, I'm gonna hop inside the warm vehicle. So the horn, it's kind of high pitched. That kind of felt a little bit cheap when I pushed on it actually. But you do have the wiper stock on this one. You have the gear shifter on this one because his is a little bit older. You have a lot of visibility. You can really see out of this vehicle quite well. And having the glass above your head, just a nice touch. I like this a lot. You have LED headlights. You have a very small, clean mirror. It lets you see out the back pretty well. But because you have backup cameras like this, you really don't need to really use your mirrors as much as you probably should. So that's kind of cool. To go back into park, you just push the end of the stock. And overall, you have a wireless charger setup. You have some plugins and USBs hidden away in there, some storage. You have some cup holders. You have the key to access it unless you are the owner and you have the key set up through your phone. Center console is actually pretty nice, and you have an upper tray and then a lower section. And because there's no transmission tunnel, this is actually really nice. Overall, it's just a nice place to be. The screen is huge. It works quickly, although not as quickly as the most recent brand new models. But there's way more videos online if you guys want to really look into that. Overall, this is just a nice place to be. The heat is hot. The heat pump works really well in this vehicle. And my brother has actually car camped in this vehicle quite a lot, and he really prefers this over old school tent camping. But with that said, let me hop out of this and into my RAV4. So as we go to the door panel and we open up, the door might not open quite as far as on the Tesla, but still, for being brand spanking new, it's going to be hard to tell how well this holds up. But a lot of this is cheap Toyota plastics. I think it's going to do a nice job, and it's quite the nice approach. Although it is cloth seats, although it's not as fancy, and our sunroof is only about 14% the surface area as the Tesla, this is still a very modest, very nice vehicle to get into. So when we open it up, we turn on the vehicle, you'll notice the heated steering wheel. It does feel good. The heat is only between these two lines, though, on each side. RAV4 appears. You can look at all of your infotainment and all of your efficiency. Visibility is actually pretty good, although I do think the Tesla has better visibility as well as drastically better cameras. But when we do go into reverse, that's the camera. You can see it's a little bit dirty on the outside, but overall, really not too bad. Physical climate control, so if you don't want to control everything through the screen, then this might be the way that you do it. You also have a plug-in down there, 12 volt, nice big storage. I love the gum pocket storage right there. And then both of these vehicles fit a Stanley 40-ounce cup, roughly the same. You can only fit one, though. You can't fit two. If you have a second one, it's going to be up at an angle. It's going to be awkwardly placed over. So I do wish the cup holders on both of these cars were bigger. But otherwise, nothing too fancy on the mirror. You have your controls for the power moonroof, your sunshade, and some LED lighting up top. The horn, it's even more high-pitched than I'd say the Tesla is. But overall, this is a very nice place to be. And honestly, I quite enjoy this vehicle, and so does the backpack. But now it's time to hop into the back of each of these vehicles and show you what they have to offer. First of all, the door panel on the Tesla, I don't actually know that it opens a whole lot bigger than it does on my Toyota. So getting a car seat in and out of here could be potentially challenging to not scratch up any parts of the interior, so keep that in mind. And then the seats are heavier than they are on my RAV4, but these are much higher end. They do have electronic components, they are heated, so there's just more hardware involved in them. But you do have the anchors down there, which is fantastic. And then sitting behind the passenger seat at 5'11", I have that much room in front of my head, which is very impressive. I have maybe that much room above my hat today on the glass roof. I have vents, tons of legroom down here. Without a transmission tunnel, without anything else blocking up the storage, you really have a very nice flat loading floor and a lot of storage. But this mat pocket, it's kind of puny. It's very narrow. But the back of these seats, they do feel very high quality. Just look at that stitching throughout. And the black plastics, actually that feels like that's going to be pretty durable. That feels like a thick piece of plastic back there. But let's hop out and I'll show you the back of the RAV4. The back of the RAV4, I also think is a pretty nice place to be. But you can see that the door panel, again, probably opens up, actually maybe pretty similar to the Tesla. And then I don't think that the back seats are as heavy, but keep in mind this is the 60 split, not the 40 like it was. And I still think that that 60 split weighed less than the 40 split on the other side. But the door panel, basically the exact same thing as the front. Black plastics, but at least they're going to hold up and age well. You do have the vents for the battery down here because the battery on this, which is roughly 1 to 2 kilowatt hours, is just tucked away nicely under the seat. And then sitting inside the RAV4, behind myself, not quite as much room as I had on the Tesla. There's a little bit of a tunnel right there for probably the electric motor, the exhaust, some of the other bits underneath the vehicle. You have vents, you have some plugins. The back seats are not heated. I don't know that this cloth is going to hold up nearly as well as the plastic piece on the other one, but hey, I have a little bit wider mat pocket. I could fit some more stuff in here if I want to, but I barely have access to the sunroof up top, so that's kind of a bummer. But headroom is good, everything is comfortable, and really, the cloth seats on these Toyotas are quite nice. So ultimately, I think both of these vehicles are quite good. I'm honestly not very surprised that they are both selling roughly 1 million units every single year. The Tesla, it's fun. It does really good in the winter. I highly recommend you watch the winter driving video. It definitely outperforms the front-wheel drive biased Toyota RAV4. It's also a little bit safer, but it's 50% more expensive than a base model RAV4. It's going to be quite a different lifestyle to have to worry about charging this all the time and having a level 2 charger installed in your house, knowing that electricity on road trips is not going to be really any cheaper than driving a gas-powered vehicle, and in many cases might be more expensive per road trip mile than the Toyota. But it's awesome, it's fun, it's exciting, it's very fast, it does a lot of things really well. This one on a wet road like this has done about a 4 second 0 to 60 true time. Meanwhile, on a wet road, the RAV4 takes twice as long, around 8 seconds. But it is cheaper. It is more serviceable. There are way more Toyota service centers than there are Tesla. And it's an iconic vehicle. It's easy to buy, it's easy to sell, and they're less likely to be as fluctuating in market value. So really, there's a lot of reasons to like either of these. There's a lot of reasons to go test drive one for yourself. I had a lot of fun with these vehicles for the day. It's fun to compare my vehicle to my brother's. I think we both enjoyed them quite a bit. And as owners of these, I highly recommend you guys give them a try if you're interested. But don't just take my word for it. I'm just a random person making a YouTube video in roughly 20-degree weather today. So if you appreciate the effort that's gone into today's video, please consider liking this video. Comment your thoughts and opinions below and your ownership impressions, because chances are a lot of you guys have owned one of these, or a lot of you guys have considered one of these, and subscribe if you haven't already. With that said, I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care, and until next time, see ya.